Donald Trump did an interview with Fox and Friends, and I want to show you some moments from it. Pretty whacked out stuff. And the thing that I took note of the most, and I'll play this for you just a little bit later, is that Trump told such a blatant lie, and thus justifiably a bunch of the internet dogpiled him and called him out for this and brought the receipts as to just how blatant his lie and how ridiculous his lie was. So we'll get to that. But something that I didn't take note of until a bunch of people were calling it out was how spliced and diced this interview was. Meaning, Fox News is doing everything they can for Trump to make him look as good as possible. It still didn't work. He's still an incoherent mess, rambling all over the place. But they tried, as you'll tell, with sort of uncharacteristic splice, just abrupt cuts. They tried to make him seem more coherent and put together. So we'll observe some of those moments, but just to give you a sense of what people were saying about this, it was trending even on X, the fact that it was so edited. Asen writes, Trump's interview with Fox and Friends is heavily edited for some reason. Abrupt cuts while he's still talking. Very curious what they edited out. You also have Ron Filipkowski writing, Fox and Friends has to tape and edit the hell out of Trump's interview as usual. They can't go live with him anymore because he's a deranged, rambling mess. So they have to clean up everything as best they can with edits. And then Aaron Rupar responding to the clip I'll play you first. Trump was so incoherent on Fox and Friends that he wasn't really able to complete a coherent thought despite obvious heavy editing. So again, the takeaway is even with the assist from the editors, still not very coherent. Trump, that is. Here's the first moment.
In your presidency, what they've done to you, you've got the verdict that just came through. A lot of Democrats have expressed concern that if you're elected, you're going to want revenge. And some of your supporters have said, well, you know.
Sorry. It's not Democrats just expressing theoretical concern. It's Trump saying he's going to inflict retribution upon his enemies.
Mutually, you know, we're just talking about the weaponization of the justice system against political opponents. Some of your supporters have said, well, the only way to stop this is mutually assured destruction, right? If you do it to us, we're going to do it to you. You've said, no, my revenge is going to be success for America. You've just had this verdict. Yeah. Do you still feel the same? What's your thoughts on that?
It's a really tough question in one way, because these are bad people. These people are sick. And they do things that are so destructive. I mean, look what they did from the day I got there. And I don't know, you know, a lot of people said, we have no choice but to elect Trump. Republicans, because he's the only one that can withstand this. Don't forget, if it weren't me, they'd be going after somebody else. And I know a lot of the competition, they wouldn't do so well. They wouldn't be doing so well right now. They'd be saying, Mommy, take me home. I want to go home. This is brutal. But these are sick people. And for instance, the 51 intelligence agents, who thinks of these? And they think about it just like they say, I'm guilty of, and you know, all this information was from so many years before the election. You know, it's before the election. So
that's a great point. Because so you're talking about
he saw that he starts sort of and the thing that I have a hard time with is even imitating him, because I can't force myself to stop and start new sentences that many times. My brain, I think most of us can't even do that if we tried, much less doing it because we can't coherently construct a sentence and then put a period on the end of it, then start a new one. It has to be this half thought, just so many fragmented thoughts. And it's honestly stressful to listen to. And also, I think this hurts his political advocacy on his own behalf. That's sort of giving him too much credit, political advocacy, because it's not coherent enough for someone who's not already in the MAGA bubble to know what he's talking about. Like when he referenced the 51 intelligence agency, and he will reference conspiracy theories right when talking points that, yeah, sure, MAGA people will understand. But, and this was one of my big takeaways from the 2020 debate, was that he was saying a lot of quote unquote points that will rile up the right-wing media viewers, but the voters he's trying to appeal to won't actually know what he's saying because he's not taking the time to intelligently and thoughtfully explain, can you imagine, what it is that he's referring to. And so he just had a bunch of frazzled thoughts there. They tried to cut it to make it seem less, but still nothing nothing great there. Then here's another example from Aaron Rupar.
But the poll numbers have gone up substantially. I don't know if that's going to remain that way.
You changed your tone at some point during the trial. I would say maybe a bit more hopeful in the beginning. And then towards the end, you said something to the effect of, even Mother Teresa couldn't be acquitted in this venue. Was there a moment in the trial that you felt like it turned, or you saw that it was headed in a certain direction?
Well, when you object to something, your lawyers object, good lawyers, professional lawyers, good records, nice people. You know, I've had a lot of lawyers that weren't nice, and sometimes you're better off that way. These are really fine people. They'd object. Not accepted, not accepted, not accepted. When the government, meaning the DA, Bragg, when he said something, all right, good, that's fine. Go ahead, more. But the main thing is this, that this was turned...
Another cut. He's struggling. I say again, and we've looked at compilations, I won't do it again because it would stretch this segment out too long, but of all of Trump's glitches and the more dramatic moments, but we don't really talk about even just this, that he's having a hard time just thinking in a straightforward way and then reflecting that thought in a coherent sentence. And it's getting worse. He's always sort of done this a little bit more than your average speaker, but it's really spiraling out of control as he deteriorates. But there he's just telling something that's completely wrong. This idea that the judge would always sustain prosecution's objections but overturn the defense's, not true. There were a bunch of times when the defense had theirs upheld and the prosecutions would be overturned. So he's once again lying. But one more abrupt cut just to give you a sense of how hard they were working to help Trump. Then I'll show you the crazy lie that he was brutally called out for.
When it comes to the legal maze that you're still facing, and the judge could decide to say, hey, house arrest or even jail.
It
How
could.
do you face what that could look
I'm okay with it. I saw one of my lawyers the other day.
I'm okay with it. So... And again, even with the assist, he did not come out looking good at all. Here's him trying to claim, as absurd as this is, and I'll show you the video evidence to contradict what he has to say here in just a bit, trying to claim that he hasn't said that Hillary Clinton should be locked up.
I want to follow up on what Rachel asked you, though, because I hear you struggling with it. I hear you say it's a tough question, a bit unsure. You famously said regarding Hillary Clinton, lock her up. You declined to do that as president.
I beat her. It's easier when you win. And they all said lock her up. And I felt, and I could have done it, but I felt it would have been a terrible thing. And then this happened to me. And so I may feel differently about it. I can't tell you, I'm not sure I can answer the question. Hillary Clinton, I didn't say lock her up, but the people would all say lock her up, lock her up. Okay. Then we won. And I said pretty openly, I say, all right, come on, just relax. Let's go. We got to make our country great.
Okay. So according to him, the people were saying it. Blame my followers. I wasn't saying it. I would never utter such a phrase. A phrase that clearly indicates you're not calling for due process, actions by prosecutors independent from the president based on compelling evidence brought in front of a jury. The person that you're accusing of these things has their day in court, can defend themselves, and then the jury of their peers gets to decide, meaning what happened to Trump, actually getting the correct playing out of the process. No, lock her up, again, indicates just subverting that process and the president somehow forcing their political opponent into jail. And he's saying, that's not something I would ever say. Goodness gracious. 3 Fox hosts that I'm being interviewed by for some reason that I don't understand. Why are there so many Fox hosts? But here's the evidence of that being a lie.
Hillary Clinton, I didn't say lock her up, but the people would all say lock her up, lock her up. Okay. Lock her up, I'll tell you.
Lock up the Bidens. Lock up Hillary.
Lock them up, yeah, lock them up.
Who said that? Lock her up. Stand up, please. You got to get your governor to open up your state, okay? Lock them all up.
That's one of the craziest ways he would respond when his crowd would chant, lock someone up. on occasion, as you heard there, he would say, lock them all up. On what crimes, huh? What are we talking about? They had a difference of opinion on COVID policy with Gretchen Whitmer, and Trump finds it justified to say, so put her in prison? What are we talking about? And I will say, you definitely had Trump saying those words, lock her up, as you saw. But also, he repeatedly, publicly, would call on his attorney general to go after his political opponents. And now he's trying to act like he was holier than thou, and he's on this moral pedestal because he could have locked her up, but he decided not to for the sake of the country. But now I'm not going to be so holy, and I'm going to go after her, which I do think also gives us insight into this whole set of conspiracy theories. To me, is indicative of how these MAGA folks think about the presidency, because for us, it seems so ridiculous based on the evidence and just in theory, the idea that President Joe Biden would be coordinating all these different cases and different, jurisdictions and would be doing all this to take Trump down. Because we understand that Biden understands the president isn't supposed to involve himself in such things. Even with the federal cases, Biden has kept himself completely removed, as has been the tradition. The president's not supposed to be directing their attorney general to do all sorts of different things that benefit the president. It's supposed to be somewhat independent, the DOJ. And that's something that apparently MAGA doesn't respect and now wants to see Trump completely obliterate. And I'll keep saying that, and they wanted him to do it before, I should note, and now they really want him to do it. But they keep saying that the justice system is being destroyed by what's being done to Trump. But of course, Trump was treated by the system how he should have been. He had his day in court to defend himself, and a jury of his peers unanimously found that he was guilty of the crimes that he was accused of. And that's the process playing out correctly. This is not some witch hunt. They haven't brought forward a shred of evidence that it is, but evidence was brought forward of his criminal wrongdoing. But as they're pushing these ideas, the lies about what's happening to Trump will be the justification to actually do what they're accusing Biden of doing, which is destroying the justice system. If Republicans have their way, these MAGA Republicans, in support of Trump, and now they're openly saying we just want every Democrat to be gone after. We've shown clips recently. All of the enemies of Trump should be targeted by right-wing prosecutors. And now that they're openly calling for this, it's become more likely that they could actually do to the justice system what they're pretending like is being done in the name of these very conspiracy theories, which is extremely frightening. Tell me what you thought in the comments of that bonkers interview.